So it's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker. You will be wowed after you hear me read his bio. And he has a special guest with him today as well, which I'm sure he'll introduce. So Marc Supreme Hamilton is a journalist and media practitioner who produces content and events from pop culture to politics and education. His latest book, I'm just going to read the word, I hope I don't offend anyone, but we should stick with the integrity of the words that people have chosen. Damn, I graduate in May. Spelled D @
There you
MN. Speaks to high school and college students attempting to navigate their post-secondary options while learning to leverage the opportunities education offers. The book is being taught in high schools and is used by several community programs and nonprofits that work with students. The literary mixtape is also the foundation of the, Mark, you told me how to pronounce it and now I'm going to forget.
Good.
DIGIM College Fair, and he'll share more about that later. This event reimagines the college browsing experience, immersing it in the arts, culture, and professional engagement with industry experts from around the country. Additionally, Mark is a part of the event planning supergroup, the Yanni Collective. This organization partners with businesses and influencers to put on citywide events and special occasions that connect communities. Mark also serves as the general manager of 90.7 FM WAZU, Strictly Hip Hop, a program fused with the latest music and political news and updates. He's interviewed a host of artists and public figures, from NBA champions, multi-platinum selling artists, award-winning actors, and CEOs. Mark contributes to many media outlets, including Gannett, PBS, Pacifica, and NPR. He is an overall creative who can translate a concept to its physical equivalent, whether a campaign or event. Excuse me. He thrives on expressions of art, storytelling, branding, and anything dope to broad audiences while filling cultural and educational voids. Mark holds a bachelor's degree in journalism and a master's degree in public affairs. Whew. And Mark, we're ready for you.
Hello, everybody. You guys spoke back, okay. Thank you for the introduction. I'm super excited to be here. I just want to say a couple things. I do have a guest. Today is last second take your son to work day. And so Sebastian is here with me. My son Sebastian is here with me. He currently goes to Ridgeview Elementary, and he's on his way to first grade because they let him come back too. I didn't think they let him come back. They let him back. So it's awesome. And also, shout out to whoever that was with the Kidder Music shirt on. I bought plenty of reeds there. Well, my mom did when I was in grade school and high school because I played clarinet, drums, and piano. So we bought a lot of reeds, bought a lot of drumsticks and things like that. And I met the owner last year or 2 years ago before the Betty Jane closed. And we talked about, we rapped at length about Chuck Cunningham, who was my band director at the time. So it was pretty cool to kind of catch up about him and things like that. So again, thank you so much for allowing me to be here. I'm happy to be here. This presentation, just to preface all this, is an old, well, not super old, it's from like 2 weeks ago that I presented in Champaign. I was told that there's going to be like some high school students here, and you guys look close. But and so it was going to be like a approach on, you know, the book and why it is the way it is, and we still might approach some of it. But I just want to kind of share my story, how I came up with the book, why I came up with the title, and kind of my background. So I do have a master's degree, but a lot of people would have been surprised if they knew that that was my trajectory in high school, because I barely made it out of high school. I graduated high school with a 1.8 GPA. I know. Ooh, you made it. And it wasn't because I couldn't cut the mustard or anything like that. When I was in high school, I just had no direction. I didn't know what I was doing. I knew I wanted to be successful, but you know, I didn't really know. And the unfortunate part and the culture shock part for me was that I had come from Christ Lutheran School. And if you guys are familiar with Christ Lutheran, it's a small private school in the south end of Peoria. And we don't change classes. The teachers change classes. So by the time I got to Central High School, this huge school, slight culture shock, and everybody is just going every which way. Like, you going to class? No? Okay. You going to class? Not you either, huh? What are we going to do? And then, I just got lost. And then eventually my mom said, okay, you're failing everything except health. And you have a C- in that. And so we're going to pluck you out and we're going to put you back in the private school. So she put me into Notre Dame, which was also a culture shock for me. And when I was there, though, I'm grateful for my experience because I don't think, had it not been for Notre Dame, I don't think I would have went to college. Maybe it's a chance, but I was exposed to a lot of things that I'm grateful for on the back end. So studied, and it actually started to get in my stride. And then by the time senior year came, I don't know if any of you guys from Peoria remember Notre Dame back in like 2003, 2004. A lot of headlines, deans moving around, principals moving around. We were picketing on the front, well, not exactly picketing, but protesting on the front lawn. We skipped school a couple of times and we were outside. And so a lot of students left. So my mom allowed me to go back to Central. And so I've been doing my homework and I've been studying and doing everything I'm supposed to do. And I'm getting good grades finally. So I'm like, all right, cool. And I had an idea of what school I wanted to go to. I wanted to go to Morehouse College down in Atlanta, Georgia. I took a visit down there. It was phenomenal. I'm like, you know what? My grades are getting good. I'm getting A's and B's. Now I'm going to go to Morehouse College. And then about April-ish, right before I was getting ready to graduate, about maybe February-ish, that's when I understood the definition of the term cumulative. I was like, oh, so freshman year and sophomore year still has followed me all this way. Okay, cool. And so I went on to ICC, and I was chasing what I thought I wanted to do. I was interested in psychology, and I love talking to people, helping people figure out things. I thought I was going to be the Black Dr. Phil. And then I was introduced to media, and I always wanted to do media, but I didn't think it was a realistic aspiration. So I was like, let me figure out something a little bit more realistic. And then I was introduced to media and ended up doing TV shows and things like that. So ICC went well, transferred to SIU Carbondale, did some cool things down there, worked for the newspaper and things. Had some cool interviews and covered some dope stories. I covered the Obama election in Grant Park back in 2008, so that was pretty cool. Had an interview with Elena Fernandez, who's Fidel Castro's daughter. He talked about, the revolution, the Batista government getting overthrown, all that stuff. So that was pretty cool. And then I, by the skin of my teeth, made it to this grad program at University of Illinois Springfield, studying public affairs and covering the General Assembly at the time, which was super cool. So I'm like, you know what, I'm really, getting in my stride and figuring out that, how I'm going to make it once I graduate and everything's going to be good. I got my extra degrees just in case. And so I graduated with my master's degree a year early. So I'm like, okay. I got this thing figured out because, I was brought up in the same way that I think a lot of you all were brought up with, where, if you get a degree, you're good to go. Doesn't matter what you get your degree in. It could be basket weaving. It could be business management. It doesn't matter. You're going to be good to go. So I graduated, and boy, could I not find a job. I got my master's degree in 2010, and, we're still on the back end of, economic collapse, if you want to call it that, the recession and things. And I couldn't find a job, so I reluctantly moved back to Peoria. And so this is when my journey gets weird, and this is where I started. This is where I got the idea of the book that I wrote during the pandemic. I'm working for the radio station that I currently work for now, and interviewing all type of people. And one day I interviewed Tim and Bob. Are you guys familiar with Tim and Bob? Who Tim and Bob is? Are you guys familiar with Boys to Men? Okay. Are you guys familiar with Mariah Carey? Yes. Earth, Wind, and Fire? Yes. Okay, so Tim and Bob were the super production duo that produced about 60% of Boyz II Men music. They've worked with Mariah Carey, Destiny's Child, Earth, Wind, and Fire. I mean, you name it, all the big names. They graduated from Richwoods High School. A lot of people don't know that, in the 90s. And so, huge. If you Google Tim and Bob, and then you hit their Wikipedia page, it's crazy. And then they have a separate link for their discography. It's so long, like Michael Jackson, all that. Do you guys remember, in the early 2000s, there was a song called The Thong Song? Do you guys remember that? Yeah. You guys remember? Okay. I was kind of nervous. I didn't know it was like the thing. What do we do? They produced that too. And fun fact about that song, that instrumental, if you remember it, that was actually originally supposed to go to Michael Jackson. I forgot what happened, but Michael Jackson didn't take it, so it went to Cisco, and hence you have the Thong Song, which is actually owned by the writers of Ricky Martin's song "Livin' La Vida Loca." So it's a whole lesson in publishing rights. So he said, Living La Vida Loca, that's off Ricky Martin's song, but Ricky Martin didn't write that. His writers wrote that. So all the music from Living La Vida Loca and the thong song all go to this writer. So just, a lesson in that. So don't worry about being the singer, be the writer. And so I'm interviewing these two guys, and, it's going good, and I've always been good at, interviewing. It's kind of been my strength. And they said, you know what, you're kind of good at this. I'm like, really? Like, yeah, man, like you could, I see, you're too big for Peoria. You can spread your wings. You could probably go to like, LA or something. And they're living in LA at the time. They're like, man, you thrive in LA. I'm like, you think so? And like, yeah, man. So I'm like, okay. So I thought about it for not long enough. And I quit my job and got a one-way ticket to LA. Now I have family out there, so I have somewhat of a safety net. So I got a one-way ticket to LA. And so, I got my master's degree, right? I went to college, I graduated, so I could do whatever I want to do. I could be who I want to be. So I get to LA and I'm just, trying to network with like Nickelodeon and Viacom and Lionsgate and all these different entities, K-Day, which is a popular radio station out there. So I'm trying to shake and jive, shake and groove, whatever you want to call it. And I'm like, you know what? I not only do I do radio, I went to college, I got a degree. They're like, that's cute. Ooh, degree. I went to school. You know how to turn in homework. Great. I'm like, oh, okay. So I did a couple odd jobs. A couple things went well, but most of them didn't. Fell on my face, broke, and reluctantly caught another one-way flight back here. And started working radio again. And then about a year or two later, there's this big migration to Atlanta. And I don't know if you guys pay attention, but, America sometimes has these shifts. Everybody's going to this city. Everybody's going to that city. And at the time, this was 10 years ago, actually kind of this month that I actually made that move. At the time it was Atlanta, but then for a point in time, for a smidge of time, it was Charlotte. Then you guys might be familiar for a good while, it was Houston and Dallas, especially from Peoria. I think half of Peoria is in Dallas right now. And then now it's Phoenix, right? And so this was a great migration down to Atlanta. I had a lot of friends that were going to go, and that were already down. I had friends that worked at Tyler Perry. I had a friend that was touring with Outkast, like a famous rap group from back in the day. And so like, man, you need to come down to Atlanta. You'd kill it down here. I know people, things like that. You'd be great. I'm like, you think so? Like, yeah, man, come on down. So I quit my job. I quit my job. I'm sorry. I didn't write any of this down. I quit my job and drove all the way down to Atlanta. Well, I first went to St. Louis, then I went to Nashville. So I broke it up because I was by myself, and then I went to Atlanta. From St. Louis to Nashville is way farther than Google Maps told me at the time. And so, but I get down there, and I'm doing a little bit better. I saved up a little bit of money. I got a car now because I didn't have a car in LA because no one was driving out there. So I got my car, got a couple dollars, and a little bit of familiarity on how to navigate big cities. So, and I got friends down here, so we're gonna make it. And so I do a couple odd jobs, a couple cool things. I end up working for a company called Crew One, where they built stages for big concerts. And so how many people have been to a concert? Most? So when we go to a concert, first of all, we go to see the act, we sing along the songs. But if you ever daze out, you start to look like, man, there's a lot of people here. I paid $80. Looks like there's about 10,000 people here. 10,000 to $80, it's a lot of money. And we start thinking about, man, there's a lot of money on that stage, right? But what we don't think about is, who put this stage together? Who's managing this tour? Who are all the workers that, make sure that everything get loaded up in the semis and off to the next city? So I ended up working for a company called Crew One, and I was in production. So we built stages for Oprah, Drake and Lil Wayne. We built stages for Beyonce, Outkast again. We were doing these things. So I got that job, and it wasn't constant, but it was pretty cool. It was a nice experience. And then, but I started networking because I'm trying to get a real job. I got a master's degree. I ain't got time to be building no stages. You know what I mean? And so I'm networking. I meet this guy whose wife works at CNN. I'm like, okay, cool. This is my break. He's like, oh yeah, man, we can get you situated, man. No problem. And he said, I'm gonna talk to my wife. Shoot your resume over. Shoot a couple reels over, and we'll get you taken care of. So I'm like, all right, cool. Wait. And then later on, and I don't know if you guys remember this, again, this is 2014, CNN ends up laying off thousands of people. Thousands of people. So now, not only am I not getting a job at CNN because they're not hiring, but now I'm in a job pool with a bunch of people that have CNN on their resume. So now I'm really not getting a job. And then a friend of mine, she gets fired from Tyler Perry. The other guy who's on tour with Outkast, tour is over. And it's just like everything is going bad. And in fact, I even got a job that I didn't end up getting. Has that happened to everybody? You've been hired, but you don't end up getting the job. Does that sound crazy? Down on my luck, I'm like, forget this degree. I'm just gonna go to the mall, try to sell some shoes. Forget it. Because I don't want to come back home. And it'd be embarrassing to come back home. And so I went to Greenbrier Mall, and there was a shoe store there, and they sold, Jordans and, all that jazz. And I come from that. Like, I used to work in Finish Line when I was in high school and college. And, killed the interview, did my tax information, submitted background check, all that type of stuff. He said, when the background check comes in, we'll give you a call, you can start work. I'm like, all right, cool. Week goes by, 2 weeks go by, I haven't heard anything. I reach out. Oh, background check hasn't come in yet. I'm like, okay. Wait a couple more weeks, and I got a job. I already got the job, so I'm just buying my time. Call back in like a month. Hasn't come in yet. I'm like, okay. Wait 2 more weeks. I go up there, like, man, what is going on? He said, so the company that we submit our background checks to, our contract with them ended. We started another contract with another company, but now we're not hiring. No. I know! I'm like, did y'all hire me already? Like, I thought I had the job. And so I'm like, yikes, okay. And so I go back, I go back to now some stand. And at this point, and I got so many stories about Atlanta. Just like anybody been in a spot where it's like, you're always almost there? Like, always almost there. Close, but not a cigar or a cigarette. It was terrible. And so at this point, so what was I going to say? What was it? Another gig. So I'm living with my roommate who got fired from Tyler Perry, and I reached out to the person that got her hired at Tyler Perry. I'm like, hey, maybe I can get a production gig at Tyler Perry. And this is one of those things where if somebody puts their name on the line and then you mess it up, they don't want to help anybody else anymore. So he's like, yeah, I'd love to help you out with Tyler Perry, but since your friend got fired, I don't see me taking a chance on my name or yours. So sorry. I'm like, okay. And one night, late at night, I'm just searching for jobs, and I see a job for a production assistant for Entertainment Tonight in LA. I'm like, I would love to go back to LA. And these folks aren't going to call me back, but I'm not doing nothing. I'm sitting there bored, whatever. And so I applied to be a production assistant at Entertainment Tonight. 2 days later, they called me back. They're like, hey, you still interested? I'm like, you're right, I am. And they're like, okay, great. Can you come in for interview Tuesday? I'm like, ooh. Because I've already learned the lesson of you can't say that you don't live there because they won't hire you. And I'm not there, but I can't be there Tuesday. I got to figure something out. So yeah, I can come in on Tuesday. Yeah, sure. Yeah. And so, because of course, this pre-pandemic, no Zoom, no real virtual options. And so I started reaching out to all the people that gave me favors and the people that haven't given me favors. And, I mustered up like $200-300 for a ticket, but wasn't able to get the money for the ticket. Asking again, like, can we do this virtually? Can we do it on Skype? This is before Zoom. Can we do it on Skype? Can I FaceTime you? Can we figure something out? And they're like, no, we can't. And so I just had to let that go as well. Somebody say, and so, so we're in this apartment. We're broke. We're broke. 1-bedroom apartment, 2 people. I'm laying on the air mattress, and we're broke. I'm talking about roaches, bro. Roaches in the kitchen, bro. We're broke. And I didn't grow up like that. I'm in shock. And so all of a sudden, SIU Carbondale, the school that I went to, they called. And they're like, hey, you want to come work for us? I'm like, no. But I'm broke, so yeah, when do I start? And they're like, oh, yeah, man, so, they gave me a start date. Mind you, by this time, I already wrecked my car, too. Like, it's bad. It's so bad. So my car is wrecked, and there was nights I like slept in the back of it in the parking lot. It was like I was broke. It was bad. And so I took the job and started recruiting students to come to SIU Carbondale. So my territory was St. Louis area, Carbondale, Peoria, Bloomington, Springfield, Galesburg, all the way up to about Kankakee. And so I get to come back home every once in a while. I'm not doing what I want to do because, again, I'm chasing a media dream, right? But instead, I'm trying to not only pour into students and help them know how to get into SIU, but I'm also trying to help them just navigate post-secondary options in general. If you want to come to SIU, great, but if you don't, this is what you should do. And I would always get a lot of compliments on my presentation, which was cool, but I don't want to work in higher education. Like, this is not what I went to school for. Fast forward, I ended up getting a gig at Northern Illinois University. They say, hey, you should come work for us, and we'll pay you more, and you can live in Peoria, so you don't have to report. You just work from home. This is work from home before work from home. And so I'm like, okay, so I took the gig, so now I'm back in Peoria. And so I took that gig, and then I started, I had the same territory, so I'm still recruiting students, but still get like a lot of compliments on my presentation and things like that. And my friend was like, you know what, maybe your purpose is not to be successful yourself, it's to help other people get and become successful. I'm like, that sucks. Who the hell wants to do that? Why do we want to do that? Like, why would I want to do that? But it is what it is. So fast forward, the pandemic hits, and I just have this idea. I'm like, you know what, I want to write a book because like I get compliments on my presentations. And I'm like, if I can give this information to everyone, this will help a lot of students avoid a lot of things that I had to endure and navigate my way to success, or just trying to find my purpose and things like that. So I started writing this during the pandemic, and I wish I brought a slide for it, but I also noticed that anybody been to college fair? College fair, all the same, but boring. You know, gymnasium, the fans on. You know what I mean? And just a bunch of colleges with brochures saying, hey, you should come. We've got psychology. And then the next person says, we got it too. And so you're trying to figure out what to do. But I felt like students needed more context. So what we did, and this was just a trial, February 2022, I launched, this is before the book came out, launched the first DIGIM fair. And so what I wanted to do was bring in a bunch of schools to give students the exposure to different four-year universities. And then after that, we're going to do breakout sessions on business and entrepreneurship, government, nonprofit, arts and entertainment, and what was the fourth one at that time? I think trades. Information technology. Did I say that already? Okay, so information technology. And we just did it at Carver Center. And we just invited 50 students from all four high schools at the time. So this is just a trial. Let's just see if this works. And it went over well. So students come in and, half of them go to the college fair, half of them go to the breakout sessions, and they flip. And, that's the whole thing. Just see if it'll work. And it worked. The students enjoyed it. Principal enjoyed it. Principal Emkin, who's now over at IVC, but at the time she was at Richwoods, we kind of had to drag her around. We're like, Principal, your bus is here. She's like, okay, give me 5 minutes. Like, bus is here. I don't know. But so we brought in people from all over the country that specialize in different areas of career fields to pour into the students, not to pontificate at them about, success, but for students to get a chance to ask questions. When my mom found out that I wanted to be a psychologist, the first thing she did was take me to meet a psychologist and like kind of poke their brain and get an idea of what that journey looks like and whether or not I like it. And then after that, change my major. Because I'm like, by the time I talk to you and your issues, who do I talk to? I'm just carrying all this stuff. Like, no, forget that. I'll keep reading books about it. And so that went over well. And then the following year, we were able to land Bradley as a venue. And so not only did we land Bradley, but we also expanded our options for breakout sessions. So we added health. And we were able to get some super cool people like one of the youngest nurse practitioners at the Mayo Clinic from Phoenix. She flew in. We had people from, where else, man? From all over. I'm trying to think. That was later on. Well, later on this past October, Bob from the group, Tim and Bob, I told you about, he flew in from LA and talked about his music career. And it's funny because, high school students are so skeptical. They're like, and he's so humble, so it's kind of weird. He's like, my name is Bob Robinson. I'm into music. I do engineering, things like that. So yeah, that's me. Now, mind you, this guy has sold, wiki him, 400 million records sold, 3 Grammys, 7 nominations, millions of dollars made, tons of artists worked with, right? But these high school students raise their hand and ask him, he's like, yeah, question. He's like, and you're a skeptical high school student. So you say you do music, huh? What kind of music? Like, what artists, if you do music, who have you worked with? And he's like, just a couple great people, man. Mariah Carey, Busta Rhymes, Beyonce, things. He's like, oh, you do music. Like, I do music. But yeah, we were able to land Bradley. So when we got Bradley, we were able to, with the bigger venue, we were able to bring in 100 students per high school. So now we got 500 schools because we've also looped in Limestone. And now when students go to the college fair and then their breakout sessions, they actually get to traverse the actual college campus on their way to the breakout session. So to give them the vibe about, what college life would be like. And then we also added sports that last time too, which was, I'm grateful for that because if you talk to any students from 5th grade all the way to senior in high school, sometimes senior in college, you might find a 30-year-old as well. I'm going to go to the NBA. Fam, you're 30. It's fine. It's fine. But we wanted to show students that even if you don't make it to the NBA, you can still work in the NBA. Like there's more than one job in the NBA. You can, you're just seeing the players. And in fact, anybody know David Booth? Here from Peoria? Yeah. David Booth, Vice President of Basketball Operations for the NBA. Like that's super cool. And we were lucky to get Chris Reynolds to come in and speak on that panel. You guys know who Chris Reynolds is? Last year's chair for March Madness Selection Committee. Like that's huge. And I think Peoria doesn't give him enough flowers for like the national stages he's been on and representing Peoria so well, but that's a different story. But so bringing all these students in, and then we eventually expanded to University of Illinois Springfield, another alma mater of mine, and we've been able to impact the students in Springfield and Decatur as well too. And so fast forward, we sold a couple books, done a couple career fairs as well. And in 2023, I think it was 2022, I gave the commencement speech at Illinois Central College, another alma mater, which was pretty cool. And I'm sandwiched in between, I think Kim Blickenstaff and former Congresswoman. I'm tripping right now. No, was it that? No, it wasn't Duckworth. Bustos, Sherry Bustos. Thank you so much. So that was pretty cool too. And so now what we do is I just go talk to students about, not necessarily just going to college, but helping them understand that college itself isn't going to make you become successful. College is a leg to the stool. It's a door to opportunity, not a seat for success. And you still got to figure out success on your own. Who did that? I'm good, but no, you're good. So this is an excerpt from the book. And again, this was in the event that some high school students were here because I wanted to kind of speak to that. But just give you a snapshot of what the book looks like. It's easy to read, very conversational. And so just letting them know, like, you can't go in thinking that, because you graduate, you're not going to become successful just because you graduate. And that's the hard lesson that I had to learn. And so as I'm going city to city, I didn't mention it, but I spent some time in St. Louis as well. And I didn't realize how much network mattered and how much your experience mattered and how much, and it's not about, I don't know if it's in here or not, but I tell students all the time, and it's the same for adults. It's not about what you know, but beyond that, it's who knows you, right? How many people know who Elon Musk is? Now, what if he knew you too?
I wouldn't be sitting here.
And I wouldn't even, it changes everything. And, networking can take you places that, college degree can and sometimes experience can, because there's people in high places that don't really need to belong there, right? But it's because, they're plugged in. Can you go to the next slide, please? Let's see what we got. That college doesn't guarantee success. It just means you're educated. You have to figure out success on your own. And the cool feedback that I've been getting is from adults, actually. People 30 plus who have decided to go back to school, who decided to go to ICC, maybe get in the Workforce Equity Initiative program. And ICC and everybody over there, Kim Armstrong, and Dr. Oh, she's going to kill me. Dr. Cork-Bradley, thank you so much. But they're doing a phenomenal job over there. So again, they need their flowers as well. I don't know if it's an East Peoria versus Peoria thing, but they're doing a great job over there in helping adults that have not went to school still come back to school and change their lives. What do we have next? Oh, back.
Sorry.
So you might be wondering what you're looking at. Anybody know who these two sets of artists are? Okay, great. Right. Migos. So first of all, before I get into this, how many people know about the Drake Kendrick Lamar feud? You guys been following that? How many people listen to everything? Okay.
Not all of it.
Who wins in your opinion?
Not Drake.
I know. It's bad right now. It's bad. And then somebody just leaked a song today that he like actually copied word for word or melody for melody, like a whole completely different song. And like, he's going through tough times right now. We're gonna pray for him. Tough times for sure. And what's impressive about all this, and this has nothing to do with the book, but what's impressive about all this is that Kendrick Lamar has effectively created a Drake counterculture, which is insane. This is getting played at baseball games. Cardinal fan, they had Metro Boomin, the person that produced one of the songs that Kendrick was on dissing Drake, like they're playing that at Cardinals games. Like it's bad. It's bad right now. He'll make it though. We all do. He'll be all right. But this is one. How many people went to, started, or graduated college? Just even spent a semester in college. How many people spent a semester in college? This is, and tell me if this provides insight and context, because this is something I didn't know. I didn't realize until I started working in school. You got two type of majors, right? And how many people have like kids or grandkids that are in high school, entering college, in college, whatever? Okay, something to think about, and this is what I wish I'd known. You have two type of majors. You have Drake majors and you have Migos majors, right? To be successful in any field, you need three things: education, experience, and network. Those are the three things you need to be successful in any field, right? Drake, he raps, he sings, he produces, all that in and of itself. Migos, though a great group, it takes three of them to be the Migos: success, your education, your network. A Drake major is something that has all those three things built in, and all you have to do is go to school. Because one of the biggest mistakes I made in college, to a slight degree, was I only went to school, thinking I could just go to school, get good grades, you'll be fine. That was the mistake. Because I was taking a Migos major, not realizing that I was treating it like a Drake major. A Drake major is something that has everything into it. All you got to do is go to school. They're going to incorporate all the things in your program. What are those programs? Nursing. In order to graduate and become a nurse, you have to do the education. You have to do the clinicals, and by way of the clinicals, you develop a network at the hospital you're doing clinicals at. So by the time you graduated, you already have everything built in. And so instead of just randomly applying for jobs aimlessly, you're calling on the people that you work with. And so you're not calling in and saying, hey, I got a degree, and they're saying, cute. You're calling, you're calling Bob, you're calling Kim, you're calling Robert, you're calling them and saying, hey, remember me? I was, did my clinicals there. Oh, yeah. And you can finesse it that way. Another Drake major, teaching. Right? When you go to school to be a teacher, they give you education. You have to do student teaching. And by way of your student teaching, you develop your experience and your network. Oftentimes, too, like at NIU, accounting, because accounting degrees in a lot of schools require you to have an internship or two before you graduate. So they give you the education and they require you to get some experience, which requires you by default to gain a network. So when you graduate, you're just hollering at the people that you already went to school with. Did work with. Migos majors, on the other hand, all the school is going to give you is your education. You got to figure out your experience and you got to figure out your network on your own. Because I went to school for journalism in undergrad and I didn't have to do anything outside of turning in homework in order to graduate. So when I graduated, I'm thinking like, yes, I made it. I'm going to start applying, but I don't have enough and I didn't really get the overall well-rounded education that was required to become successful, especially in something like journalism. Right, it was only one leg to the stool, and I've not sat on many one-leg stools, right? And so another degree like that, photography. Usually they're your cool liberal arts degrees. Photography, sometimes they require a portfolio or something like that to graduate, but not really a network. And we all know that in order to become a multi-million-dollar high-profile photographer, a degree is the last thing you need. Same thing to be a high-profile R&B singer. Beyonce doesn't have a degree in singing. So that's not what's required. And so I let students know, like, hey, you got to know the difference between Drake and Migos majors, because the worst mistake you can do is take on a Migos major and treat it like a Drake major, as in all you need to do is go to school. And because if you do that, then you're going to graduate wondering what was the use of going to school in the first place. And I had that feeling myself because I've got a master's degree and everybody's looking at me like, bro, why are you broke? How come you don't have a job? And I was like, I don't know. And these are people that I graduated high school with that work at Caterpillar and they didn't go to school, but they're doing fine financially. I'm just up here trying to figure out what is wrong. But also let students know too, that not everybody needs college. And we're getting away from that idea that, you got to go to college to be successful or else you're going to be flipping burgers. Not true. We've seen it. But even though not everyone needs college, everyone needs to be educated, no matter what it is you want to do. You want to flip burgers, fine, but you still got to know how to work everything, right? And so that's one of the bigger lessons I try to teach students, and just high school, college students, but also adults going back to school, trying to figure out what to major in, what to study, and how do they get to where they want to get to. But you got to know those different type of majors, and if you don't, you can be in serious trouble. What's the next slide? How much time do I have?
Few minutes.
Okay, cool.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. It works fine for me. And the last part of the book is just things that, like random rules that I'd like to tell high school students as they're branching off. And can you see number 2?
Number 3 is the first one.
Don't go to school because of boyfriend, girlfriend.
Don't go to school because of boyfriend, girlfriend. Don't. Is that number 3?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is number 3. Thank you so much. Okay, I see what you said. That should be number 1. A lot of people fall victim. I know a lot of victims. What else is on there? This isn't movable.
Go back.
I honestly can't read all that stuff right
You wrote it.
I did. I know I wrote it. I wrote it, but I didn't memorize it. But those are just like random thoughts that I like to give students. So again, the book is just again not a you better go to college, and it's not a in-depth dissertation on how to navigate everything, but just to give students a understanding on how to approach post-secondary options. And also got to do no, I'm not gonna do that. I was gonna say.
On the money one, that's a good one.
What does it say?
Money, the 30,000 that you're gonna.
Oh,
That's a good one,
yes.
a lot of people don't.
Yes, no, seriously. If you, I always say, get more out of the school than the school gets out of you. That's huge. And we all make that mistake just by going to school and like, we're not going to do the math lab, not going to go to the writing lab, not going to participate in any events. We're not going to squeeze all the information we can out of our professors and things like that. We're just going to go to school. And again, we don't mean to do that, but the thing is, every university, every college in general is like a hub full of resources. And we have to treat it like a toothpaste tube and just squeeze out every little bit, because again, if a school costs 30 grand to go to, they're gonna get their 30 grand regardless. And they give you all these options, all these resources, even if it's just the gym membership, like the rec center, like they give you all of this, but a lot of us that aren't fully equipped to know how to navigate college, all we do is the classes begrudgingly almost, and then we graduate and then like they got our money, or we don't graduate and they still got our money, right? And so that's one of the biggest things that I like to emphasize and underscore with the students is, maximize everything that the school has. And if the school costs 30 grand, make sure you get 60 grand out of it, for sure. Any thoughts, any questions at all about anything? Yes, sir.
I think I can be heard. Thanks for what you presented. I think it's really excellent information. I'm wondering, do you have a relationship with District 150 in terms of working with kids in school and sharing some of the insights you shared with us today?
Yes, thank you for asking that. So yes, that was developed when we did the college fair at first. So we still do the college fairs, and we're actually doing another one this fall where we bring in about 500 students total to Bradley's campus. But also this last year that I didn't make mention of is that I've been mentoring youth along with my friend Antoine Banks, who runs an organization called Product of the Projects. And we've been in at least Fort Allen, which is now Roosevelt, and Annie Jo Gordon, which is now, which used to be there, not now, but flip it. And Annie Jo Gordon, which used to be Harrison School. So it's called Success Coaching. And we mentored 5th through 8th graders this whole past year. And man, it makes you feel young or old, depending on how you look at it. We've been doing that as well. So this has been a great time. But if you got anything in mind, though, for sure, I'm definitely open. But so we started that. There's still a lot more to explore. But we've been working with high school and middle school age students so far.
Yeah, I do some things with District 150. I like to talk to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yes, sir.
I teach at ICC.
Okay.
So some of the students that we get don't seem as enthusiastic about the education as you do. I teach statistics, so there's only so much I can do to make it exciting.
Right.
But what would you encourage how do you address the fact that students coming into college don't appear to be as engaged and prepared as perhaps they used to be.
I think there's two reasons why a student wouldn't be engaged or prepared for school. A, just lack of direction. They're in school because their parents said, hey, you either go to school or you get kicked out. Okay, you know what I mean? So that's A. And then they don't know what they want to do. So it's not simply just being unenthused about school. It's about being inundated with thoughts and ideas and concerns and trepidation and apprehension about, man, what is going on next? Because everything is changing so rapidly now, right? Like even for myself, again, journalism. I went into college in 2005, newspapers were this thick. I graduated in 2009 and they're this thin, if they still exist. And so with everything rapidly happening, it's just like, what do I do? Where do I go, right? So that's A. B, I think it's because you need sometimes people to connect the dots for you. And so if you're confused already, then you're trying to figure out not only where am I going, but what do I do right now to get where I'm going? Because, I mean, a lot of people won't probably tell you, but they're scared. And it's scary because, A, you feel like you have to make a decision for your entire life at age 18, 19, or 20. And you have to figure out the next 40 years at age 20. And we all, have enough experience to know that we've done a billion things between, age 20 and age 40, right? And so you don't have to have it all made up, but they feel like you have to. And then when we're all younger, all of us when we're like 15, 16, 17, 18, we're thinking that, the 35 and up's got it all figured out. Then you turn 35 and up. Like, you guys don't have a clue either. Like, you know what I mean? And so I think if we could help students, and that's what this is about, just not saying this is what you do, but the connecting the dots on the possibilities. For if you're here, then you go here, and this is what this looks like, and this is what this looks like on the back end as well, too. And so I think what you could probably, what I'd encourage you to try to figure out is connecting those dots as to why stats matter, why school matters, and then spend one-on-one time with some of the students that are scared to come talk to you, don't see the value in talking to you, and just help them understand a little bit of your backstory and what you would do if you were in their position right now. And I think, and being personable, stats, numbers, right? You're spitting numbers all day, but it has no emotional connection. So I would maybe, if you got some days that lessons are a little bit lighter, and just engage with them and figure out, like, school's coming up. I start off with, how many of you guys know what you want to do 10 years from now? Why are you guys here? Why are you at ICC? Why did you take stats? What did you think you were going to get out of this? And then get to know some of them, and that starts that dialogue, and then you get a little bit of information and understanding from each student, and you know how to approach each student differently as well. So I take that approach.
One last question.
Yeah. So a lot of us, this is our hot button topic, right? The education system and how do we educate children, and how do we, so the question is, I think you're right that we need to concentrate on the why. And that, I think, is how do we do that? We work with kids at least Fort Allen, and they don't know why. They know they're supposed to learn to read. They know they're supposed to do their math, but they don't know why. And I think that's what's missing in education is they don't understand that to be a music producer or to be an organizer, they really have to have this whole reading thing down pat. So how do we teach? How do we inspire? How do we get people to understand why they're doing it? And that will generate, I think, the pull from the students to, I need more education right now.
A couple things on that. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Funny, it was years ago, my oldest, he was 13 now, but he was 9 at the time, 9, 10 years old. I remember going to the gas station, filling up, and I get back in the car, and I just get in like, whoa, $75, man. He's like, wait, you got to pay for that stuff? I'm like, yeah, Carter, gas costs money. Every time we go somewhere, it costs money. So just making that, making that connection. Also, with students that are specifically at least Fort Allen, similar to what I told him at ICC, but he has less to deal with because they're grown and already mentally mature a little bit and emotionally intelligent.
Don't be so sure about that.
Yeah, understood. Hey, I got you on there. But you have to cut through a lot of the stuff with the students, and you're gonna have to do a little bit deeper dive into the students and understanding where they're coming from and cutting through those barriers. Because a lot of these students, and I know this from working there, a lot of them haven't eaten. A lot of them have dealt with a lot of stuff back at home and barely made it to school. I have a fifth grader who has to make sure that her little siblings are picked up from school. She has to walk to school, pick up her 5, 6-year-old, two of them, and then walk them over to the house, and then make sure it's up to her to make sure that her siblings have dinner that night. And so we're worried about food, not worried about homework. We're not worried about reading, other situations, you know what I mean? Like, just, and it's sad to see a lot of these student situations with parents, lack of parents, they act out, you call parents, and then sometimes they're not living in poverty. Sometimes it's just like parents are just so lackadaisical in their approach to discipline where, you get called home from school, then you go home and then you get cussed out, but the kids don't matter. They don't care because they've been cussed out a million times before. And it's like, now go to your room and play the game. Okay. And so they don't have to make that connection at all. And the last thing is going back to my son, Carter, he doesn't care that gas is $75 or $2 million. He didn't have to worry about that. So there's no real, angst, for lack of a better term. There's no real, intention. I'm missing my terms, but there's no hurry.
Appreciation.
Urgency, thank you. There's no urgency to get that stuff figured out, right? Because all they know is all they know, and they got to take care of what they know at the time. I like Jay-Z mentioned, he mentioned like a lot of like rich people problems in a rap song. He mentioned a lot of rich people problems. And he says, there's much bigger issues in the world I know, but first I got to take care of the world I know. And that's a lot of these students as well. My son is 6 years old. You give him a suitcase of $1 million on one side, you give him an iPad on the other side, he's going to take the iPad. Hopefully I'm there like, no! But he's going to take the iPad until he is able to make the connection like, you know how many iPads I can get with $1 million? But it's not there yet. So I just say just getting to know the student really, and a lot of these teachers don't do this. And I feel sorry for them because they can't, especially at least for it. I mean, it can be, I can go on record, I don't care. It can be a zoo in there. It can really be a zoo. Students hanging off the lights, like literally, right? And so the teachers are so burnt out and they're just trying to make it through the day, make it through the week, and make it to the school year till we're finally on, what's today, June 30th, May 30th. It's just like, whoa, we made it, right? So they don't have the time to pour into these students. And that's why I feel like it's so important for individuals like myself and you as well, too, who are not teachers. So we don't have the high stress of every day, students bouncing off the walls and going through this 8, 9 times a day, feeling like you're, some may or may not be supported and things like that. We're fresh. We have fresh legs. We have the time and capacity and patience to pour into these students and really get to the essence of who they are, what they want to become, what's bothering them, figuring out how we can help, and then we build from there. But a lot of these students, they're in the same building, but they don't come from the same place. But we expect them to act the same, and we expect them to give the same type of effort because you're in this setting, but you don't know where they came from, and you don't know where they're going home to, if they go home at all. So if we can get to the essence of that, figure out who they are, really take the time to understand them and let them know that we care, then we can build from there. And it's going to take longer than we like oftentimes, but I think that's the only way to go. And unfortunately, they don't have the capacity at the district level to have as many personnel there on full staff to do this. But I think that's the blessing in individuals like yourself. So thank you for the work that you do, and I would encourage you to keep going for sure. Oh, that was a long answer. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate the time, and I hope some of this made sense. Thank you so much.
Thank you.